Hi, and thank you for joining today's webinar, 5 Critical Factors in Creating a Successful Customer Experience. This is our last webinar in our CX Dream series. If you missed any of our previous webinars, they can be found on confirmit.com. You can also follow the conversation using hashtag CXDream. That's CXTREME. Before I introduce our speaker, I'd like to remind everyone that this webinar is being recorded and will be available to all of our attendees. Also, we'll be hosting a Q&A at the end of the presentation, so please submit your questions using the chat window. Today we have Michel Falcon online. Michel Falcon is a customer and employee experience coach and a professionally represented keynote speaker. He works with organizations who aspire to recreate or refine the service they deliver to their customers and employees. So with that, I'd like to pass it on to Michel.
Thank you very much, Dina, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for reserving some time to talk about all things customer experience, specifically the 5 critical factors in creating a successful customer experience. On each slide, you're going to see in the footer my Twitter handle and my email address. Feel free to ask any questions during the Q&A. If we happen to run out of time, feel free to ask me a question tomorrow or even in 12 months from now. So let's jump right into it. Before I get into the 5 critical success factors, just want to give you some background on who I am and why I committed a career to customer experience. I enrolled in university in 2007, and I always had recognized that I wanted to learn how to grow businesses. But I struggled for 2 years, and the reason I struggled was because I did not know what I wanted to specialize in. After doing some soul searching, if you will, and recognizing that, you know what, marketing, sales, PR, those things are fantastic and much needed in business, it wasn't resonating with me. It's not something I wanted to commit my career to. My grandfather in Lima, Peru, operated a fish market from one store to several stores. So he was a grassroots entrepreneur that I really respected and admired and went to for advice. Now, what he told me, and I'm paraphrasing and I'm just being short for sake of time, but he said, devote yourself to customer service. First thing that I thought was he was suggesting that I take a job as a bag boy at a grocery store. I equated customer service to lower paying jobs that help operate a business but didn't necessarily help grow a business. So he corrected me and helped me understand what customer experience meant, that end-to-end experience a customer will have with a company will have with their customers. So I decided to do some research. Who were the leaders in customer experience back then? So we're talking about almost 10 years ago. And I noticed that these 5 companies were doing really well. Southwest Airlines, Zappos, Apple, Amazon, and WestJet Airlines. We know their stories, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, and we recognize them as being leaders. But what is the one word or a few words that come to mind when you see these brands? So some of you might be thinking loyalty, wow customer experience, fanatical fans. For me, it's billion, as in $1 billion. All of these companies have grown to be massively successful. And if you scratch the surface, you'll notice that at the core of their company is a devotion to their customer experience. It's what they obsess over. Southwest Airlines has been profitable for, I believe, 37 consecutive years in a row in the airline industry. Zappos goes from $1 million to $1 billion. WestJet Airlines, a very profitable airline based in Canada, where I'm from. As a matter of fact, the WestJet Airlines profit share program for their employees is in the tens of millions every single year for their employees. Apple is Apple, Amazon is Amazon. Now, whether you are a $1 billion company today or a small business or a medium business, it doesn't matter, because Amazon didn't open up their store or start their business at a billion-dollar company. They started off in a garage. So you see, if you put customer experience at the core of your company from day one, you could have the similar success as these 5 companies. Now, does that mean all hope is lost if you haven't put it at the core of your company since day one? No. And that's why we're going to what we're going to talk about today, and helping you understand how you can make sure that your customers are at the core of your company. Now, today I'm studying companies such as Uber, Silvercar, Airbnb, Oscar, and Zen Payroll. Uber and Airbnb might be companies you're familiar with. I use them all the time. As a matter of fact, I'll be using Airbnb this coming fall when I go to Italy. But Silvercar, Oscar, and Zen Payroll might be new to you. Now, these 5 companies, and why I literally spend 10 hours a week just studying, so I can introduce that next great Zappos-like company to my audience and to my clients. But what these 5 companies are doing is they're leveraging 2 things: better technology and a better customer experience. I do not believe there are barriers of entry into any industry anymore. Uber's proved it, Airbnb's proved it, Silvercar's proved it, all 5 of these have. So what I would recommend, if you are trying to improve your customer experience within your organization, you must obsess over your education. Select 3 to 5 companies that you admire in different industries and study them. Read everything you can online, every case study, every white paper. Reach out to them. Maybe they do office tours. Maybe they'll allow you to speak to some of their key executives or people there. And see what they're doing and think, would that work in our industry? Today, as Dina had mentioned, I work with bigger companies and speak at their events and consult with them. You probably recognize the logos on the outside, but in the middle is, in the blue coffee cup, is Experience Academy. It's an online course that I created, a 6-module online course I created with my team to help people really understand what are the strategies that go into building a better customer and employee-centric organization. So getting into the first critical success factor, this is a non-negotiable for me. Whether I speak at an event or I consult with an organization and advise them, if they say, Michel, we want to improve our customer experience, the non-negotiable is they must be willing to let me look and advise on their employee experience. Because you can buy all the software, build all the strategies in the world, but if you do not have customer-centric individuals, people with the DNA to care about a stranger, that software, those strategies are not going to work to their maximum potential. So what are some things that you could do, even starting tomorrow? So one thing I love to do on webinars is give you use tomorrow type strategies. So it starts off with hiring, of course. Are you asking the right questions during the interview process to make sure that that person has the DNA that you need? After that, and one thing I want to talk about specifically for this point is, what is the first 24 hours like for all employees that you welcome to your organization, regardless of their department? If you want your customers your employees to devote themselves to the company to deliver an amazing customer experience, you must be the first to do so to them and become memorable. So who's doing that really well? Zen Payroll. I mentioned them earlier. So you'll see a picture. Zen Payroll is based in San Francisco, really fun company. I've got to exchange emails with one of their founders and some of their people on their PR team. And one thing that I really like about them is that they're different. They're not traditionalists, if you will, and they have fun. One of the things that they do in their onboarding for new employees is they give their employees a watermelon. Now, you might be thinking, that's so bizarre, maybe even a little cheesy, if you will. But the reason I like it is because of this. The day that the founders secured their office space to start this company, their landlord gave them a watermelon, which is very bizarre. So what they do to help employees understand how the company got started and really tie that back is they give every single employee a watermelon. Now, am I telling you to go hand out watermelons to all your employees today or tomorrow? Absolutely not. But what's that thing that you can do that's so memorable, maybe even a little bizarre, that will get your employee to be like, this place is different. I like this place. I can be myself. And if you're allowing your employees to be themselves, then they're going to treat your customers in a really organic way. Warby Parker is another example. Warby Parker, the online and offline retailer of eyewear. What they do in their onboarding process is they will give you a packet that is waiting on your desk when you start on day one. Now, within the packet are a couple pair of glasses, a book called Dharma Buns. Now, why that book specifically? Well, how they came up with the name for the company, Warby Parker, was because they took two characters' names in that book and combined them. So they hand that book out to every single employee to help them understand, hey, this is where the name came from. But also, they give a gift certificate to a local Thai restaurant. Now, why a local Thai restaurant? Why not Italian? Thai, because when the founders were getting the company started, they had many late nights, like most founders do. And the only restaurant open in the neighborhood was a Thai restaurant. So you see, similar to Zen Payroll, Warby Parker is helping employees understand what were the founding days like of the company. And it creates that emotional attachment for the employee. A question to you is, what unique tactics are your company using to create stronger relationships with your employees and inspire them to deliver a memorable customer experience? Your onboarding process cannot be rudimentary. If it is, if you haven't changed it or updated it in, let's say, 24 months, you're not putting yourself in a position to inspire your employees to deliver amazing service from the very beginning. If you're able to emotionally hook them to the company and get them to devote themselves as managers, as leaders, as C-suites, you can take a step back and just watch your employees do great, memorable work for your customers. The second critical success factor is the CEO must be the flag bearer. This cannot be something that your VP is championing. The CEO, while this individual doesn't have to do the work, they definitely have to be in the media talking about their customer experience. Tony Hsieh did a fantastic job with Zappos. Richard Branson has been doing this for decades. Greg Soretsky, he's the CEO of WestJet Airlines, does a fantastic job of this as well too. But how can your CEO be the flag bearer? What are some subtle things? Another non-negotiable for me as well too when I work with clients and advisor CEOs, they have to be willing to allocate 30 minutes a week to do things like answer their customers' emails, sit in their call center and listen to calls, engage in social media, do something, at the minimum 30 minutes a week, to show the organization that, yes, I am the flag bearer of this. Yes, I am committed to this. Now, if a CEO says, I don't have the time to do that, well, I don't think that individual is really customer-centric. They might say they are, but deep down they're not, because 30 minutes a week in a traditional working week is 1/80th of the week. And if you can't afford to do that, if you can't find the time to do that, then you are not customer-centric. I mentioned a moment ago that a good way for a CEO to be really visible and be a flag bearer is through social media. So who's doing that really well? Stuart Butterfield, he's the founder, co-founder of Slack. Slack is a technology company based in San Francisco. I'm sure many of the companies listening to this webinar probably use it within their company. But take a look at this engagement that Stuart Butterfield had with the customer. Just take a moment to read it really quickly. Now, the thing that I like about this the most CEOs on social are just responding to customers that say, I love XYZ brand, and then they retweet it and say, thanks. What Stuart has done here is he's in the trenches talking about product, right? He's not just thanking people that love the company. He's actually asking product-related questions and really getting in the weeds, and I find that extremely admirable. The next person is Kat Cole. She is, I believe, I don't know her formal title, but she does lead Cinnabon's operations, and this is another perfect example of a CEO engaging on social and asking their customers, in this case, for advice. If you read the third tweet, Kat Cole's tweet, send ideas. It's such a fun brand. Did you know that ice cream is made fresh in the shops every day? This is a voice of the customer program. Yes, maybe it's hard to scale that, but she's going straight to the store saying, send us ideas. Her last tweet is anything, product, design, locations, whatever. Of course, if this individual recommends something, is Cinnabon going to go run and create that strategy? Of course not. But this is an admired CEO, somebody that waves the flag and leads the customer experience. I've been to Cinnabon a bunch of times, and every single time their product is ridiculously good, and their service is fantastic as well too. So my question is, does your CEO advocate your customer experience? I've met with a lot of people in my career that have said, my CEO doesn't, but I want to help this individual. So if so, what does she do? If not, what must she do? The thing with customer experience, which leads us into our third critical success factor, is that you must be willing to think long term, because the return on investment of customer experience is not instantaneous like some digital marketing programs like pay-per-click. You see, if you were to launch a Voice of the Customer program, and I'm sure many people listening right now have one within their organization today, but think of how long that took. There was the finding your vendor, like confirm it. Then you had to deploy it within the organization. Maybe that could take 3 months, which included training. You have to survey your customers. You have to analyze that feedback. You have to create operational strategies to improve the good, to continue the good and reduce the bad. That whole process could take over 12 months. Are you willing to think long term to be able to strengthen the foundation of your business? If you're not, if the organization doesn't have what I call the corporate courage to think long term, they will never be a customer-focused organization. Think about our relationships with our customers are no different than the relationships that we have with our aunts, our uncles, our sons, our daughters, or our best friends. Imagine if we weighed the ROI of my friendship with my best friend. Do you think that person would be my best friend? Do you think I would be a good human being? But yet, we do the same things with our customers. When we're sitting around at a executive roundtable trying to build operational strategies and thinking, what is the strategic plan for next quarter? There's always somebody that will say, well, what's the ROI of taking care of our customers? What's the ROI of surveying our customers or having their complaints resolved in one business day? My argument is, what is the ROI of caring about people? What is the ROI about caring about your mother or your daughter? If you believe in that, then you must be able to translate that to the relationships with your customers, because commerce and business as we know it today is about caring about our customers and employees. Then we take a step back and we allow them to do great work. Now, Airbnb, I love the company. As a matter of fact, I'm heading down to their head office, their call center in Portland next month to take a tour of their offices. I highly recommend that after this webinar, go into Google and type in Airbnb call center Business Insider, and then an article is going to pop up that Business Insider wrote. They have one of the most futuristic call centers I have ever seen in my life. Now, Brad Chesky said something that really resonated with me. Our overnight success took 1,000 days. Stay persistent. And if you've ever used Airbnb, you know how fantastic their user and their customer experience is, whether you're a host or whether you're a guest. So my challenge and my question to you is, does your company have the corporate courage to think long term? The fourth critical success factor is understanding something I call micro experiences. What a micro customer experience is are small, subtle, memorable, and affordable touches that will resonate with your customers for years. You see, with customer experience, your customers appreciate the little things that you do for them more than the grand gestures. Your customers are more likely to become loyal if you do those little things rather than pay $4 million, let's say, for a Super Bowl ad. Now, who's doing this well? You may have seen this before, Domino's Pizza Tracker. I think this concept is completely applicable to any industry. Now, let's walk through this because this has 5 key components to this pizza tracker. Now, the first is that brief paragraph at the beginning. It's a couple of sentences that gives the customer an overview of what is this. Now, it needs to be a couple of sentences because consumer attention is short, can't be too long paragraphs. The second part is the main tracker itself. Now, what does this do other than tell the customer what stage their pizza is at? For me as a consumer, it gives me peace of mind. It gives me an effortless experience. I don't have to call Domino's. I just open up the app and I see where it's at. I think financial institutions could completely rip off this concept. For example, let's say you were out you applied to get a mortgage. And rather than having to call in and ask, where are we at the process, or wait 5 days holding your breath to see if you're going to get that home you want, what if you could open up the app and you would see something like this? And on the third step, it's going through the auditor name, and that auditor's Jim Jones, for example. Wouldn't that give you peace of mind? Doesn't that improve the customer experience through micro touches? Now, I'm not naive. I recognize that creating a pizza tracker like this does take actually a good amount of investment and time to develop it, but there's many little micro touches within the tracker. The third is the contact information of the local store. Today, if I wasn't using Domino's, I would have to go to Google and type in the address of the local chain or franchise and call them. That's not really efficient, right, because I'm having to do some due diligence. It's embedded right there. Now, for Domino's, why this is fantastic is the pizza tracker has probably provided business results, maybe even increased their margins, because the amount of phone calls that they are receiving from customers saying, where's my pizza? I'm going to imagine, I don't have the data, but I'm going to imagine that those calls have decreased, therefore probably making their call center a little more profitable than it was before this. The fourth step is the quality assurance, making sure that what I ordered actually is on its way and is accurate. Now, this is the thing that I love the most. The fifth part is they have their voice of the customer program baked in, and no pun intended, but it's baked into the pizza tracker, right? What a fantastic way for me to be able to, and it's so simple, it's so effortless for me to give them a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-star rating, leave a message. They are proactively asking at the perfect time for feedback from their customers. So my question to you is, what type of micro customer experience has your company created to become memorable in the eyes of your customers? You know, Starbucks, for example, does a good job of this as well too. When they get it right and they spell your name right, that's a micro customer experience. Warby Parker is fantastic at doing them as well too. I want you to leave this webinar today thinking, what are some of the little things that we are neglecting to do that really resonate with our customers? Remove yourselves as employees of your company and think, would that resonate with me if I was the end customer? Now, the fifth critical success factor I've mentioned a couple times now is, recognize that creating an effortless customer experience is paramount. I talk to professionals every day, and they say, customer experience, the stuff that you've been studying for nearly a decade and being a practitioner of, that's the next battleground. If you think customer experience is the next battleground, you're 5 years too late. Because right now, your next the amount of effort that needs to go into making your experience effortless is the game right now. Who's doing that well? We've seen signs of effortless customer experience for years already. To use the financial financial companies as an example, they created the check depositing. You take a picture of it and it's in your account. Before this, it would take me 15 to 20 minutes, maybe even 30 minutes to walk the bank, wait in line, and now to accomplish the same result takes me 30 seconds. Uber is a perfect example of an effortless experience. I don't want to have to wait outside and flag a cab or call into a dispatch center. I press a couple buttons and I'll pay more for that. You're going to see a picture of a laundromat there and dry cleaners. So why do I have a picture of that? I'm obsessed with thinking about what industries could be more effortless. What needs to be in place to achieve that? So today, to pick up my dry cleaning, it takes me about 30 minutes. I need to drive or walk to my dry cleaners. And if I'm driving, I have to find parking. I have to pay for it. I have to head back home, put my clothing away. That could take 30 up to 45 minutes for me, depending on how far away you live from your dry cleaners. I believe that within the next 10 years, this is the way that we're going to pick up our dry cleaning. I'm going to open an app, press a button, a self-driving car will go to my laundromat. They'll know where it is because the address will already be entered. The employee of the dry cleaners will open the door to the self-driving car, put my clothing in, and then the self-driving car is going to come back to my home. And as soon as it gets into my driveway, my doorbell will ring because the smart car will be connected to my smart home, which is probably powered by Nest or some sort of company like that. I'm going to get up off my couch, and then I'm going to go to the self-driving car, take my clothing. There's no exchange of payment because it'll all be done through my phone. And what used to take me 30 to 45 minutes now takes me 30 to 45 seconds. That is where business is going today. I mentioned earlier that there are no longer barriers of entry, better technology, better customer experience, and you've earned yourself a ticket to the dance. How can your organization leverage technology to make your customer experience effortless? To be able to understand how to do that, you must create a customer journey map. Outline every single touch point. You take your data from your Voice of the Customer program and see where your customers are exhausting the most amount of energy. Circle the 3 touch points, and then with your team, strategize what can we do to leverage technology to make those touch points effortless. If you're able to figure that out before your competitors do, that is a massive competitive advantage for you. If you liked anything that I said in that 30 minutes, if one thing resonated with you or 5 things, I have 28 other strategies to create stronger relationships with your customers and employees. You can just head to my website, michelfalcon.com, throw in your name and email address, and it will be sent to you right away. And I would love your feedback. Please let me know if there's some things that you learn along the way. I've been at this for years, and I am obsessed with not only educating my audience and my clients, but educating myself so that I could provide you that effortless education, if you will. Thank you very much, everyone. Dina, I'll kick it back over to you.
Thanks, Michel. That was really helpful, and I think we can all benefit from your dry cleaner suggestion.
I hate going there. I don't want to leave my house if I don't have to.
So we do have a lot of questions coming in, so I'm just going to start asking you some. Before we do get started, if anybody has any further questions, please submit them in the chat window. All right, so Michel, question number one. What can I do to get buy-in for customer experience in the C-suite? I know you talked a little bit about the CEO being the white flag, but what can they do to help with that?
Yeah, so I'm asked this question quite a bit, so thank you to whoever asked it. You need to provide data, so you need to understand what the customer lifetime value is. Then with that, and most organizations know that within their company, but what you have to equate is if we were to increase customer loyalty, however which way you measure it, by 5%, 10% within 12 months, let's say, what does that equate to on the bottom line? Now, you're going to have to do things like that, and even on the customer retention side. If we were to build strategy XYZ to reduce or to increase customer retention, what does that mean to the bottom line? What does that mean in dollars? Now, those are the things that non-customer-centric executives are going to ask for. With true customer-centric CEOs, they don't necessarily need to know all the time because they know that a bet on the customer is always going to be a good bet. Yes, there's going to be analysts within the company that will, the CFO, for example, will want to know that information as well too. But I caution you, if your CEO today isn't customer focused, it's difficult to get them to become customer centric because they've been operating for decades, a certain way for decades, and to be able to fundamentally change their mindset and what they think of business is difficult. But to answer the question is you got to bring data. You can't. It just can't be theory. You got to bring data.
Okay. So you gave Starbucks as an example of micro experience. Can you provide some more examples?
Yeah. I'll use, one of the first micro experiences that I recognized about 5 years ago was Uber when I first used them. If you use Uber, the email that you get after, which includes your receipt, has a picture of the route that the driver took. That's a micro little touch that builds peace of mind that shows the customer as a matter of, we took the right route to get you to your destination. Other than Uber, who I look to for examples of micro customer experiences is small businesses. There's a cafe that I go to in Vancouver where I'm based called Timber Train Coffee. The little micro experiences that they deliver, such as remembering my name. Like, I have a bizarre name. It's different, if you will. But being able to train your frontline employees to do those little things mean more to me as an individual and a consumer, and it might resonate with you as well too, than even getting 10 or 15% off. This one coffee shop in Vancouver has earned my business even over Starbucks, and I really do like Starbucks, just by training their employees better. Another example as well too is Warby Parker. I know I mentioned them earlier, but what Warby Parker did for this one customer just blew my mind. It was in Atlanta. I'll give you a really brief story, but it was in Atlanta. She walks into the store to be able to pick up her sunglasses or reading glasses. And the employee picked up on that she wasn't having a good day. And the customer was like, I had my car stolen. I really could use a beer. A couple days later, the customer gets a handwritten card in the mail with a gift certificate to a microbrewery in Atlanta saying, hey, the beer's on us. We hope everything works out. That is a micro customer experience. What is the ROI of doing that? Business Insider picked up that story, tens of millions of views and reads. The customer posted her story on Reddit, tens of thousands of upvotes, and hundreds of comments. That is the ROI of micro customer experiences. To be able to do that, you need to be able to supply your frontline employees and give them the green light to do these things. Supply them with a little budget to do that and train them on how to actively listen.
So, Michel, I think that's a good segue to the next question. So it is hard to measure ROI in the beginning when in the short term. So how can people appease their stakeholders and executives about investing in customer experience?
Really good question. There's a few ways. I could talk about this for quite some time, but I'll keep it short. Going back to the data, you have to be able to equate, what is the customer lifetime value for this business. If we create XYZ strategy that's going to cost us $50,000, $10,000, or whatever the case, what is that outcome going to be? If you provide enough data with specific numbers, that will appease even the naysayers within your business. But again, it goes back to who are you working with? Do these individuals have the DNA to bet on people, employees, and customers? I was meeting with a CEO the other day, and he kept drilling me with, well, what's the ROI? What's the ROI? And I didn't have the data just yet to be able to say, look, this is what it's going to be for your customer, because he hadn't engaged me yet. And after he kept saying, what's the ROI? What's the ROI? I said, what is the ROI of putting your son in private school? What is the ROI of sending your daughter to the best ballet school? And that was my argument at that point, was you want to set them up for success. You want them to have an enriched life, don't you? And he agreed with me, and I said, then why wouldn't you bet on enriching the lives of your customers? Don't you think that that is going to have a positive outcome? And thankfully, I turned that into an engagement.
A great way to think about it. So do you believe a chief customer officer is needed for companies who aim to be customer-centric? And what should their main role be?
Yeah, it depends on the size of the company. So if I were to say, let's say a $500 million company and above in terms of revenue, yeah, I do. Because that person needs to be, with a company that large, the CEO, yes, can be an advocate of and really the flag bearer, but there's going to need to be a person on the C-suite, within the C-suite, that can manage the efforts on a day-to-day basis. So yes. Now, if you're not that big of a company, I've seen organizations, I reported into a managing, before I started consulting, so several years ago, before consulting and keynote speaking, I reported into the VP of operations. Now, I think that customer experience should live within operations, because if your organization is operating efficiently, the VP of the operations team has a role, or a relationship rather, with all departments, whether it be PR, marketing, your call center, or your field operations. That's why I think if you can't afford, or it doesn't make sense for your company to have a CCO, I believe customer experience should live in operations.
Okay. Can you give some advice on how to apply these principles in a B2B scenario, especially as it relates to micro experiences?
Okay. So specifically on a B2B, so let me give you an example. I'm working with this steel manufacturer based in the U.S. And one thing that we had done is hosted a customer journey mapping session. And we identified that one of the pain points of this business was within accounts receivable and accounts payable. It was actually difficult for the customer to be able to pay their invoice or get paid. So we spend a lot of time with their financial team understanding, okay, what are the pain points to be able to increase the level of service that they deliver to their customers? We identified, the technology that you're using right now is from 1997, and it looks that way. And it's not allowed. Technology should make the customer's life easier. In this case, it was making it more difficult. Another thing that happened as well, too, that we found out through their Voice of the Customer program was that the customer was being paid, or the bill or the invoice was being paid, And then they never heard from the company again really shortly after. So what we did was that we mandated that there was a service level agreement within the financial side of the business now too. So when a customer would pay their invoice, one of their accounts payable clerks or account receivable clerks would have 1 business day maximum to reach out to the customer by phone and make sure that no other questions were answered, or all questions were answered. So that's a micro little touch as well too that provides peace of mind. It doesn't always have to be a gift. It can just be it could be an action, such as creating a service level agreement to make sure that customer has been contacted and reached. With B2B companies, I actually will go out and say that B2B customer experience is actually easier than B2C. And the reason I believe that, and you know what, I regret using the word easy because it's not, but with B2B, more often than not, you don't have that many customers as opposed in comparison to a Starbucks or a Cinnabon. You know who the person is that you need to appease each and every time to create that customer loyalty. So with B2B, the first thing that I do to help improve the customer experience is you got to do a customer journey mapping session, like non-negotiable, and bring key individuals and stakeholders within the business and map it out and decide, is this what our customers go through? Where are their pain points? Where are our strengths? What are we going to do as a team to be able to improve each customer touch point?
All right. This will probably be the last question for the day. What are some companies who are currently producing an effortless customer experience, and what sets these companies apart from their competitors?
Yeah. So did you want it in a B2B setting or B2C? Does it matter?
If you have examples for both, I think that'd be great.
Okay. B2C, I would say Tim Hortons. So they are a quick service restaurant, primarily in Canada, but they're in the Middle East as well too, and I believe in some states in the U.S. They have it down, maybe even better than Starbucks. Now, with them, the effortlessness is because of how good their frontline staff are trained. Now, think of how difficult that industry is to be able to create a memorable customer experience. They have their customers' attentions for 10 seconds. But what Tim Hortons has been able to do is create such fantastic training that they're able to balance that memorability and efficiency as well too, so the business doesn't suffer. So next time you're at an airport or in Canada, or if you have a Tim Hortons in your state, if you're in the U.S., go check them out and see if you experience the same thing that I do pretty much every day. On the B2B side, it's Zen Payroll, hands down. They are killing it right now. They're so good. I've never used them because they don't operate in Canada yet, but I have spoken to their customers. I have seen their user interface, their software, their user experience. It is so painless, and I love it because personally, I've had to use other companies or competitors in payroll processing, and it is a nightmare. I'm very, very bullish on Zen Payroll. My only regret is that I wasn't able to invest in their seed round or their Series A. I'm very bullish on them. But like I had mentioned, please, after this webinar, select 3 to 5 companies and obsess over them. Read everything you can. Pick up the phone, call them, see if they do office tours, and learn from them. I was taught R&D doesn't have to necessarily mean research and development. It can mean rip off and duplicate. Learn from other companies, see what they're doing, bring it into your company, add your own twist or flavor to it, and make it a part of the DNA of your company.
Great. Thank you so much, Michel, and thank you to all of our attendees today. As a reminder, this was recorded and will be available to everyone that attended. And I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day. So thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.